GM for a day, and Kenny will play the role of Nationals GM, with all due respect to Mike Rizzo, who does a wonderful job. I almost feel like we should do this one, Kenny, in scenarios. Like, if they can't re-sign Scherzer and or Rendon, then what? If they can, then what? But I'm going to let you take this one and go with it where you want.
All right, let's start with the Strasburg-Rendon situation, because the people with the Nationals seem to believe, and things can change, they seem to think they have a better shot at Strasburg than Rendon. So let's assume that's correct, and let's say, okay, they keep Steven Strasburg, keep the great rotation together with Strasburg, Scherzer, and Corbin at the top. From there, where do you go? Well, if you're not keeping Anthony Rendon, you're going to have to address third base. There's no question about that. On the right side of the infield, they also have questions, but they can re-sign Ryan Zimmerman at a reduced rate to play first. They can go with the kid Carter Kieboom at second, so those two positions are addressed. But even after all that, even if you've got Strasburg, even if you've got a third baseman, let's say it's Josh Donaldson, let's say it's Mike Moustakas, someone else, you still have to address the bullpen. Hudson's a free agent, Rodney is a free agent, and let's face it, their bullpen was a weakness all season long. They probably need 2 relievers, maybe even 3. So there is, in the words of Chris Russo, a lot of work to do. But they have the means to do it, and depending on how this all shakes out, they could be okay. Now remember too, they also need a catcher, and they're also coming off a World Series title, and we've seen in recent years that there are unique challenges associated with just coming back and trying to do it again. Strasburg, for instance, threw 245 innings last year, including postseason. He's coming off the biggest workload of his career. Scherzer, of course, went really deep as well and was physically compromised at the end of the year. So they have a lot of concerns, but the whole thing hinges on the Strasburg-Rendon equation.
So, Kenny, let me ask you as Mr. GM of this squad, and we've seen what's happened in years past, especially recently with the Boston Red Sox, how everything was slow played with their pitching staff out of spring training. How do you guard against that if you have Strasburg, Scherzer, Corbin, who did have a big workload during the year? How do you guard against that? Because the first part of the year is still pretty important.
Bill, there hasn't been a team yet to come up with a great answer for this. And we saw the Red Sox last year, they slow played it. They slow played it into April, and it didn't really work out.
No, that's not the answer!
At least initially. So this is going to be something the Nationals have to confront. And keep in mind, if they don't keep Strasburg, let's say at some point they say, we cannot wait any longer, we need to address this, and they go get a Madison Bumgarner or Zach Wheeler, someone else. Maybe even they jump into the Garrett Cole sweepstakes. Then it's a little bit of a different story, because that's one starter coming in who, well, except if it's Cole, did not have that great postseason workload. So I don't know the answer, Bill, and I don't know how you avoid that hangover that we've seen take place over the last couple of years. One way to do it is to bring in a new set of players and get fresh energy, but that has its problems too, because the players that they had worked so well together. That was the classic example of a team, and because of the way baseball is and the way all sports are, that team cannot stay together.
Not to mention the caveat that the Cole-Strasburg equation is controlled by the same person. And that makes things even more interesting if you're in the business of bringing in one or even both of those guys, which I can't imagine there being a team out there outside of maybe Chelsea or Liverpool in the Prem that could afford both of those guys on the same staff. Scott Boras represents both of them, and he is going to be able to puppeteer the market the way he wants.
That's absolutely right, Matt. And it's going to be interesting to see how he sequences this, right? Because he has those two. He's got Hyun-Jin Ryu as well. And they've got, Boras Corporation has a number of players at a number of different spots, and they're going to have to figure out a way to kind of make it all work for them. I don't know that they're all going into February. It's not going to work. So who goes first, how this all works, remains to be seen.
Interesting stuff. All right, Kenny. Nice exercise playing GM for the day with the Nationals.